Welcome to Map It Marketing for small business owners who want to become more confident and capable in their marketing. I'm Rachel Klaver and I'm a small business owner just like you. I've learnt that there are so many different things that we are supposed to do all the time. And trying to work it all out is, quite frankly, often very confusing. In this podcast, we're going to explore what those things are and whether you need to pay attention to them. Ready? Let's get started. While most of us use holidays to chill out and think of anything but business, Chanelle O'Sullivan uses that time to plan out cool ideas on paper, napkins and anything else she can find. This was the beginning of her meadery, Borage and Bee, a sparkling mead in a can sold here in New Zealand and gaining huge interest overseas. Chanelle operates Borage and Bee Meadery from her home in Glenorchy in the South Island of New Zealand, arguably one of the most beautiful places to live and visit in the world. I originally approached Chanelle because I'm doing a series on regional business owners and talking about what that was like, but we quickly shifted to a really cool topic that I wanted us to focus on in this podcast. Chanelle has taken business advice from other people as she's grown her business and taking this business seriously into a growth time. And someone asked her this question: what's your exit strategy? Chanelle realized that she didn't have one, that she hadn't thought about what would happen one day if she sold the business and what that would look like. Understanding what makes a sellable business has helped her shape a business that operates better now in the short term and has real plans for the long term. It's a lesson for many of us that get stuck in the day-to-day running of our businesses and try to work out what happens next. I know it's something that me and my husband Rod talk about a lot. Is this the business that we're creating now that's going to be a business that makes us happy in 5, 10, 15 years? And what are we doing to prepare for that time while also operating a business today? I really enjoyed this conversation with Chanelle. If you enjoy this podcast, I would love it if you hit the subscribe button and if you gave us a review so other people can see whether it's worth listening to first. But let's just jump in now and talk to Chanelle. At the end of this podcast, I'm going to go through a few questions you can ask yourself to see if you can prepare for that longer term thinking of an exit strategy. Let's get started. Hey, and welcome to Map It Marketing, episode 32. We've got a great guest for you today, which you know about in the introduction, Chanelle O'Sullivan, who owns Borage and Bee Meadery. I love mead, and it's fizzy. Is that right, Chanelle?
It is, yeah.
So that's pretty cool. So first of all, before Chanelle jumps in and introduces herself to you, I just want to say thank you so much for those of you that tune in every week and those that are new to the show. If you enjoy it, I'd love it if you make sure that you click download or to register and subscribe for it. And of course, if you love it, please add a review because it does help other people trust it and know that I'm not a crazy kook. I could be, but I'm not really that bad. So let's get started and find out from Chanelle a little bit about herself. And then we're going to start talking a little bit about how she operates her business from a place that is not a huge urban centre, which I think a lot of us actually also find ourselves in. So it'll be great. Chanelle, tell us a little bit about yourself and the business and how it got started.
Oh, yeah. So I was initially brought up north of Auckland, and spent most of my schooling and teenage years there before heading down to a sheep, beef and deer station on the shores of Lake Pukaki. So I actually always wanted to go farming. I'd spent all my school holidays on farms, and so that was my way to escape Auckland and head into the high country. So my background is very hands-on. I love working with my hands. And from there, in 2013, I started a Facebook group called Farming Mums NZ, which now has around 14,500 rural women as part of it. And that sort of sent me in a big journey through leadership development, personal public speaking, and getting thrown into this whole world I never knew existed or that I wanted to be a part of, but it was awesome. And then doing the Kellogg Rural Leadership Program through Lincoln in about 2016. So all the things that I was involved with, I sort of take them all and use them now. Vet nursing also before having kids. So I have
common factors, by the way.
Yeah, it's been really cool. It's usually animal based and it's all primary sector based at least. So from there, I've got a 9-year-old and a 6-year-old. We've lived between South Canterbury and the Mackenzie and the Wanaka region over the past sort of 14 years. And at the moment, 3 weeks ago today, we moved to Glenorchy.
Amazing.
Yeah, from Hawea.
Oh my gosh, Glenorchy is gorgeous.
I'm looking at the mountains right now, and I know that 35 kilometers through them is the Milford Sound, and they're all snow caps. So it's exquisite. Yeah,
I don't think we know know this about each other, but I actually wrote 2 books for Penguin, and one was called Men of the High Country, about older men, like men in their 70s, and some of them were in Glenorchy or sitting around that area, which is really amazing. But I also wrote a book about farming women called She'll Be Right.
Yeah. I think I have that, or I have
it. Was under my previous name, Rachel Potter, but Rachel Goodchild, actually. Sorry, I had a couple. But that was a book I wrote years ago about farming women, and my dad was a veterinarian and I was a vet nurse, so I feel like
wicked
bonds, which is really cool.
yeah, that all makes a lot of sense. That's cool. Yeah, so I mean, it all sort of crosses over, definitely. And I mean, it was.
So how did this business start from that?
So my passion is, I love designing businesses. If I could just come up with an idea, design a business and sell it, that would be my happy place. But this idea came up, I was reading about an article about a mead company, one of them in New Zealand. And for me, straight away, I was on the way to Tonga actually for my 30th, went and bought a notebook and started writing down all the with honey to showcase New Zealand's produce seasons and regions. So I did that, sat on the idea for about a year, kind of thinking, I don't know anything about this industry. Should I do it? Shouldn't I do it? But I had a background of home brewing, ciders and wines from the properties, the farms that we've lived on. Yes. So I knew how to make booze out of fruit. So I thought, surely it can't be that difficult. So started playing with it. And I mean, my passion is value added products, I suppose you could say. Like, I get frustrated sometimes when New Zealand sells our fantastic products that we, put our country and our environment under stress sometimes for commodity prices. So I love to add value to products that need some attention, I suppose. And I saw what was happening in the honey market. The Manuka honey market changed, UMF ratings changed. Honey wasn't selling as well. We have a whole lot of fruit in New Zealand that is not pretty enough to sell, even though it's perfect, that could be juiced. So it's around combining honey, fruits, herbs, spices, botanicals to tell the stories of our regions. So
I love it.
Yeah, so it all sort of came together, and I thought, if I don't do it, someone else will. So I'd better get it sorted.
Where is it made? Where is the product made?
So initially, this has been the bane of my existence, is actually contract brewing. To set up your own brewery, you'd want $1 million in your back pocket, and home brewing is not very safe when it comes to consumers. So at the moment, we're brewing through New Zealand's biggest and best brewery in Auckland. However, there is a good chance that we will be looking perhaps at the Hawke's Bay next year. So, I mean, the idea is, at the moment, we've kind of changed the model in the past few months. We did the Sprout Agri-Tech and Food Tech Acceleration Program through Massey University, just finishing that at the moment. And the mentors and investors involved with that kind of got me really thinking that the way that I have it at the moment is very small margins. Honey is very expensive to use. How can I look to add value and change the market, perhaps change the format, so that I'm not competing with seltzers, which are made with like ethanol from the dairy industry.
Yeah, different, right?
Sugar. Yeah, like this is naturally fermented over a long period with honey and fruits. It's expensive. It takes a while. It's not you can't do 4 batches in a day. So we're here brewing through Auckland, but I'm looking to develop boutique or micro meadery in this region, hopefully.
Sorry, I'm for those of you that are listening to the audio, I have a ring light so that there's light on my face, and it started lifting towards me. Oh my gosh, the ring light is attacking me. So your product, because obviously we've talked about that you create this product. It's a fizzy mead-based alcoholic drink in a can at the moment. Is that right? So single serve. It's got that mead base with that honey liqueur, essentially, or honey wine. It's a wine, isn't it, mead?
Yes, typically speaking, it's classed in New Zealand under a fruit wine for some reason, because it doesn't really have
beautiful
a
too.
Yeah, so it's all we use is honey, yeast, and water. We've went to this consultant who was a beer brewer who'd never made mead, and I was like, I want no sulfites. I want nothing nasty. I don't want any of this. I want this. I want this. And he's like, all right. Basically, like, you're probably going to be difficult. But it was really, I want to do things right from the beginning. You know, I want to be a B Corporation business. I want to do everything. I would love to have a solar powered brewery. You know, I want to make sure that everything is perfect from the beginning. And so, yeah, no sulfites, just honey, yeast, water, and then we stabilize it.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So what's the alcohol content of the can?
They're 5%. Yeah.
So it is, it's like it's lower than a lot of beers, right?
Yeah, I compare it when I explain it to people. I say it's like a cider. Instead of using apples, we use honey. But what we do is it's probably, even our semi-sweet mead is half the sugar of your typical cider.
That's great.
Yeah, and our dry mead is only 1.6 grams per can. So I think it surprises people when they try it for the first time, because you think honey and sweet, but it's super, super dry, like honey soda, barely tastes the alcohol kind of.
But that's partly because the fermentation process, I'm quite a pro at this because, of course, I've made my own kombucha. So, you know, I know what I'm talking about. But essentially with that fermentation process, it eats the sugar, doesn't it, from the honey? So that's why it's not so sweet.
Exactly. So the yeast eats the sugar and converts it into alcohol.
That's cool.
Yeah, so the dry one, once I finally got my head around that, I was like, oh, this is easy.
Yeah.
But we let it eat out all the sugar until there's almost nothing left. And then in our semi-sweet one, we do the same process, and then we add fresh honey in just as we stabilize it. So it's just slightly creamier.
That's lovely. And so with the product, I mean, you're not in Auckland or Wellington or Dunedin, like you're not in those places. How have you built your brand around your product while you're still in a population sparse area? Like, how have you done that?
Yeah, I think some of it has been helpful with past enterprises and past connections, but what I have come to realize that you don't need to be in a city anymore to do these types of things. Unfortunately, we have to contract brew there at the moment, but I mean, that's actually quite handy because it means that our distribution is a lot easier.
Yeah.
Social media, websites, we've got 60 stockists nationwide, including Foodstuffs, North Island and South Island, Faro and Auckland, more Wilsons and Wellington. So hit all those goals that I wanted to hit. It does have its challenges. Like, I can't go and present at all the shops that want to see it. So I'm very thankful that a lot of them have chosen to stock it based on phone calls or emails or word of mouth. I've had some fantastic women around the country going, you need to stock this. Call Chanelle.
Awesome. That's awesome.
So there's definitely challenges with it, but I feel like there is no challenge that is not overcomable, that you can't not live in rural New Zealand to pull it off.
Because you mentioned before, you know, that honey's expensive and those margins. I guess one of the things that around your model, which is mainly, do you sell direct as well?
I will as of December. I'm just going to.
Okay,
I'm just finishing
which is
the process.
exciting. But you've built a business where you're selling through supermarkets and things where all they care about is getting that price down for them to increase their margin. Have you found that a battle for you as a business, or did you factor that in right from the beginning with cost?
We did kind of factor it in, and I almost was at a point where no one was pushing back, and I was like, shit, maybe I've given them too much margin because they're all happy. Yeah. So I think they have margins they expect, and because there are no other meads in the market, really, there's a couple coming on now. There's no competition, so it's not oh well, I've got these 200 other beers, they're giving me this price. So at this stage, it hasn't been a huge battle, but it's something to keep in mind in the future, definitely.
Because I can't remember who it was. I think it was someone who was talking to us about working with them, and they had I liked what you said about the ethanol, because they were talking about the fact that their product, I don't remember what it was, but they said part of the issue is they're fighting against all the products out there that have ethanol, because ethanol is pure alcohol, but essentially it's just this chemical, right?
Yeah. And it's a byproduct, and it's quite funny. I saw something and it said vegan, and I was like, but if you weren't milking those cows and creating milk products, would you have that ethanol? Is it really vegan? But I was like, oh, not my problem.
That's a really interesting point.
Yeah.
So what's your role in the business besides obviously strategic thinking? Are you the person in charge of all the marketing?
Sadly, yes, at the moment. I used to love doing marketing for other people. Like that was what I got into and was doing for a few years. But it's very hard doing it for yourself, I find, because for me, there's so many stories among the brand that it's quite overwhelming. Like I'm going with the buying from smaller family-owned apiaries and fruit producers. So there's that regional focus. And then we've got the whole Save the Bees movement, and we've got Seconds Produce. We've also got, you know, we want to be a regenerative company. You know, I think there's about 8 to 10 points, and I find it quite like knowing what to focus on, who cares about what, and how do I tell them about it? So yeah, at the moment, I'm everything except for the hands-on bulk brewer right now. I'm marketing, sales, distribution, website, and like orders, trying to get stuff together for upcoming brews, making sure I have cans, can lids, sleeves, cases, case labels. Like last night in the shower, I was like, shit, the cases. I haven't ordered the cases. So it's like I'm creating procedures for myself because it's quite stressful getting to a point where all of a sudden I'm like, I don't have that and I need it tomorrow. So I'm really looking forward to the day that I can have some people on board with me to look after the things that I'm shitty at.
But I do think it's interesting because you said, you know, you love marketing for other people. I stand by the fact that it doesn't matter how good you are at marketing when it's your own business. And I'm going to say this for myself as well, because I've just had a crisis about my niche on Instagram, and it's taken me about 8 months of struggling to work out what it was. But I have during that time worked with probably 100 people one-to-one and been able to go, that's your niche, and I can identify it immediately. But when it's yourself, it's much harder.
Yeah. Oh, my own personal social media, like there is no niche. Like I've seen how like when people have a niche, they're really successful in it, like, and that's how they get it. Whereas I'm like mother, on farm, business owner, entrepreneur, love to help other entrepreneurs. But then I love my garden. I love veggie garden. I want to grow regenerative crops. We've just sold an accommodation business, co-wrote a book. Like there's about 10 different things. And I'm like, there's no niche there. My niche is being random. Is that a thing?
Okay, I'm gonna give you some strategic advice right now because I've just done it myself. I realized my struggle was there was all the stuff that me as Rachel Klaver wanted to say and do, and then there was my business, and I've actually made a decision, and on Instagram I've split them, and I still don't really know what I'm doing with the Rachel Klaver, but just splitting it has made me happier. And the moment I created that other account that was just called I Am Rachel Klaver, the minute I did it, identifies niche suddenly became, oh, that's what it is, and I don't have that battle anymore.
Yeah.
And the minute I did it, the engagement shot up. Like literally it was only 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. How interesting.
And I've been struggling for all that time, but I think it's just that thing of going, of course you want to see that stuff, but you don't get to share that stuff until your account's really big.
Yeah.
But you still want to share it. So having it there is a good way of doing it.
Oh, it's funny, isn't it? Yeah. I feel I kind of sometimes wish I had a niche, but also know that I love having 10 different things happening. So
yeah, and probably for you as a person, because it sounds like you're going to be a serial entrepreneur, having your own brand is probably going to be quite important because you don't want to be tied to having it just under the Bee and Borage Meadery, because that's going to be that's your baby now, but probably in 3 or 4 years that'll be one of the babies, and you're going to have a whole lot of them.
Oh yeah, I've got like 9 Instagram accounts against my name because I have all these different either previous businesses, current ones, or business ideas that I've got sitting there.
Hilarious.
It's complicated, but I mean, my long-term goal is to support other women entrepreneurs, specifically those in regional New Zealand, saying that grumpy husbands who are working on the farm all the time are not a barrier. Living in nowhere is not a barrier. Having kids running around the house is not a barrier. Like there are ways to do it. It's going to be hard, but I want to support if you want it hard enough, if you want it enough, you'll make it happen. But sometimes the investment opportunities, the mentorship opportunities, and, you know, monetary backing is the main thing. And that's something that hopefully, you know, in 10 years' time, the idea would be to exit the Borage and Bee business, be able to pay back investors, and then invest in others. So that's kind of the long-term scale. But I feel I had to create something, go through it myself before I could really be useful to others, I suppose.
It is interesting. And I think that is exactly what you have to do. I think that people that have gone through it become much more powerful at transforming other people because you've lived it. It's the same as like it's much easier to be a coach for parents when you've been a parent and had to suffer through endless nights of, I think my lowest point as a parent was the time I was a single parent for a while, and I lived at that stage, I was living in rural Canterbury, and all 3 of my kids got vomiting bugs, and I had to deal with all 3 of them, like moving from bed to bed. We ran out of all clean sheets. I was fine. And then they all got better. And I am in the middle of my vomiting bug, vomiting into the bathroom, and behind me I've got my 3 kids going, "We're hungry. What's for dinner?" And I remember thinking, this is the lowest point of parenting that I will ever go through right now. That's the same with business, right? Like you will have gone through that. You said before, oh my gosh, I forgot the boxes, but there'll be do I actually have enough money to make this next batch? Or, oh my gosh, why is no one buying this right away? Or that person ordered a whole lot, but no, they've cancelled. Like all those different things that happen. To live and breathe that is really important before you teach other people.
Yeah. And I think that's a good part of like not bringing on too many staff or anything right at the beginning, because it's good to know how everything works so that you have a better understanding when you bring in others. And it's like that classic entrepreneur chart you will have seen online, surely. And it's like the whole, everything's going well, everything's awful. Okay, it's getting better. No, it's the worst. Like that's like my day. Like, should I even do this? Okay, it's going okay. I just got a new order. This sucks. I don't want to do this anymore. Like it's
like that. It's a journey.
Yeah.
So you're doing you're doing all your social media. Do you do your own PR as well?
I've had a little bit of help over there at times, but I've been relatively lucky to be approached about a few different things. Like New Zealand Entrepreneur Magazine has been a good one, and some of the more bee industry stuff. We've had the New Zealand Herald, Otago Daily Times, been on The Project on TV. So there's been a bit tick away, which is good. But yeah, I actually did have a conversation with someone about this recently to get something out for summer, because this summer is where the big opportunity is. Yeah, now that I'm a year down the track.
So you're doing just organic social media for you, like you're doing, and where's your biggest following? Because I found you on LinkedIn, but I'm imagining LinkedIn isn't your biggest place.
LinkedIn, I try and keep ticking away because I'm just hoping that one day some fantastic business partner, investor will show up. Instagram is probably the biggest one. And then Facebook not far behind, probably. Yeah, Instagram would be it. I try and tick away on a couple of stories a day, but yeah, I need to incorporate a bit more of myself into the Borage and Bee stuff so that there's something that's like quite tangible and for people.
Yeah, we were talking about that a little bit beforehand. That's one of the things that you've kind of really recently discovered, is that you're doing a lot of that kind of face of the business side.
Yeah, I do that on my own personal account and link over, but not on the business account. I think that might be useful.
And I mean, you live like in one of the most beautiful places, not just in New Zealand, but in the world. So there's opportunity, isn't there, to have you and your product in this beautiful location.
Yeah, for sure. I need to get a photographer on the job.
Yeah, or maybe just slide a few products to other people who've got photographers so they can give you the great images.
Yeah. Oh yeah, exactly.
I made a list of someone I'm going to connect you with after the podcast.
Perfect.
So because also I noticed you've done a little bit of Instagram TV, or it's now called just Instagram. It's not just called TV or video, Instagram video, but you haven't done reels yet on Instagram. Is it because you're nervous?
I used to be at like the front of all the social media trends, and I was really onto it. And now I'm like, TikTok scares the shit out of me. I'm not getting into that.
You'd be amazing
because
on
I don't want it on my phone, because I don't want the kids to see it, because they would love it. Reels, I need to teach myself how to do that. I've been avoiding it, but I do see it as a really good tool because I enjoy watching others.
There's a really cool, I interviewed her a few weeks ago, Jade, but she does quite a lot of what you could do, what she does with products, and I don't know who does it here in New Zealand, but I'm sure someone does it, is that she does a lot of stop motion product reels where, so you could have things where it's like it's opening up and it's with a beautiful bright background, and then it's poured into a drink and there's the stuff and that sort of lifestyle. So you wouldn't even have to show your face. It could just be like a really short video. I think those sort of things would work really well.
I'll add it to my list.
Yeah, I'm trying to add more work to you to add stress onto your life, No,
so, I need to do it. I just need to lose my Instagram reel virginity.
Yeah. Well, the cool thing is, let me tell you this for you or anyone else, is so I've just started this new account and I'm really excited because I'm going through a bit of a gluggy place with my reels on my other account because I'm breaking a lot of rules to test stuff out. But I know that because Instagram wants you to do a reel, no matter how crappy your reel is, the first one you do, you'll get thousands of views on it because Instagram wants to reward you for doing a reel. So they'll just push it out to lots of people.
All right. Well, now you're talking algorithm stuff. I'm all into it.
Yeah, it's very exciting. But if you try and make it good, that would be awesome because it means I'll share out the next one a bit more as well. But I did one that was just like snapshots of us going through Marlborough Sound on my personal account. I think it had 3,000 views, and it was just like literally just little snapshots, nothing, so you can do it.
Yeah. I'm into it.
So you obviously you're selling here and you are going to start selling direct.
Yes.
This year, which is exciting. And that would be still distributed from Auckland as opposed to have to be from you. Is that right?
I have warehouse option in Auckland and one in Cromwell. Because to go from Auckland to Invercargill, it kind of makes it a bit pointless.
Yeah, it would. It would very much.
I've worked this out myself over time.
Have you got worldwide domination in mind with this as well?
Pretty much, yeah. I go big or go home,
Yeah.
But yeah, I've had some conversations overseas, Australia, I'm hoping Southeast Asia, perhaps Hong Kong and things like that. I had no idea what was happening over there until I started looking into it. They actually care about sustainable products and where it comes from and the story. And not only that, but if I can put Manuka honey in it, then it's all over it. So that is the goal. That's why I'm kind of reformatting a little bit so that it's New Zealand suitable, but it's also suitable for export. And that's the plan with the breweries that I'm in talks with, is that they have those overseas contacts already. That's where we'll be looking. So yeah, I mean, it makes sense to me. Hopefully it makes sense to others. I sent out a newsletter last night after putting it off for ages. And the general gist of it is that currently the mead industry globally is worth around $400 million. In the next 4 years is expecting to double to over 800 million.
Wow, that's significant.
Yeah. So in the past, since 2017, there was 160 meaderies in the US. Now there's over 600 with around 200 more waiting on certification. So that's why I committed to this, because the overseas trends are booming. You look at Australia, India. I had a podcast recording with people, 2 meaderies in India recently doing the same style.
How awesome.
There's some in Japan that I know of. And then I had a podcast with Gosnell's Mead in the UK. They're probably one of the biggest ones in the UK. So it's this trend that's building, and it's made in New Zealand at the moment is where cider was 10 years ago. That's the general thought. And I'm becoming more and more confident that this is the next thing to be a part of. So
one of the things I really like about this, Chanelle, is you have you're showing me that you didn't just set up a business because you had this passion about this thing. Like you had an idea, but you actually went and looked at things like trends, what's actually going on. So you haven't just launched a business because you go, I really like mead and I'd like to make it, or I want this sustainable business. You actually went and did a lot of your framework or base work was research first.
Yeah. I think the research really helped convince me that it was the right thing to do. I mean, it's costed a lot of money. And then, I funded the first part of it. And if it doesn't work, I lose that money. And I'm not a gambler. Yeah. I do not like gambling. Like, I wanted to be pretty sure that this was going to work. And so it was really helpful to see. I mean, the US often sets our trends in food, beverage, and fashion. So it was seeing what was happening over there and just the constant increase. And then I'm like, well, New Zealand has some of the purest honey in the world, and people know it is. Like, they come to New Zealand to buy our honey and our fruit. And Central Otago in Southeast Asia, it resonates. So you put all those things together. Plus the New Zealand wine industry also being amazing. Like, it's just like, surely all these things coming together makes sense. So yeah, I feel like it's still, I still doubt myself every day, but yeah, it's kind of, I've come into this loving it, but also seeing it as a business. Like, in 50 years time, I don't want to still be doing this, because there are other things that I'd like to work on as well. And I want to make investors money. I want them to win with me. If they're going to back me, I want to reward them by paying them back many times over.
So one of the things I really like about talking with you is I talk to a lot of small business owners, and on this podcast, and obviously with my clients, but you have actually created a business specifically that you love and you've got passion in it, but the passion isn't running the business. The strategic plan to grow is running the business.
Yeah. And at first I was really torn about this. Like, I don't know if you've spent much time in Oamaru, but there's Riverstone Kitchen and Scott's Brewery.
Yes.
And I want to smash the two of them together and create a destination meadery with on-site, this beautiful place. But also at the same time, investors are saying, we're not going to invest in you if you don't have an exit strategy, because we want to see our money back one day. So I've constantly had this clash of worlds of like, I can see what this can become. The farm at Byron Bay. I don't know if
absolutely.
That, based on that. So that is something that is still in my mind. And it might be that still happens amongst everything. But long term, I want to make sure that others win. And I mean, the history, I think some people are like, oh, that's nice. You've got your little thing going on. Like Part-Time Rangers, the alcohol company. It was started in 2018 by two 20-year-old boys, backed by their family, a bit of funding and stuff like that. They sold to Jack Daniels for $25 million, roughly, about 2.5 years later. Like, so there are massive players out there. And if you do it right, you'll be greatly rewarded. And I'm kind of like, I know for me, it's like trying to mix that shallowness feeling of I'm just trying to make a buck with actually the reason I want this to be successful is because all I've ever wanted to do is be able to invest in other women in business to support them. And I can't do that without money. I can't do that without experience. And I think I want my win to help a whole lot of others win and create something that, a network of people who understand that they can accomplish anything they want to. And I want to back them. I want to make sure that they feel confident that they can do that.
But I think too, like, because Rod and I, we don't have any plans to sell Identify at any stage, but we have an exit strategy in our business, and the exit strategy, we don't have investors, so it's slightly different. But I encourage business owners to have an exit strategy, because what it does is it's saying, am I building a business that is actually sellable? Yes, because if you're not building a business that's sellable, you put up with a whole lot of crap in your business that you shouldn't have in there.
Yeah. And New Zealand Trade and Enterprise, I've been in discussions with them as well. They're like, the first thing I met from NZTA, this guy came up to me and said, I heard you speak. What's your exit strategy? And I was like, I don't know. And he was like, you need an exit strategy. And it's something that it's taken a while to get my head around. And the first year I was uncomfortable about this entirely. Like talking about exit, and that made me feel like I was only doing it for certain reasons, but you have to. That's how the world works. And it's just about doing it for good. And like, as I said to you, I want to be a B corporation. Yeah. I want to be a regenerative business. I want a solar powered brewery. I want this. The idea is to be carbon neutral, maybe even carbon positive, sequester more even, it's just trying to do business right. Yeah. Not do it.
I just said carbon positive, but I mean the other one, carbon negative.
I know. Everyone uses it differently, which is why I didn't say it. I know.
Bad. Can I ask you?
Everyone uses it differently.
Yeah. I know, like I've had some work with B Corp businesses before, and a guy I used to work with, Tim Jones, who's like is a B Corp. Yeah.
I think I've talked to him. Yeah.
So I used to work with him. So I know from that. But do you just want to explain to the listeners what B Corp actually is? A few of clients have talked about it too before.
Yeah, I'm not any professional in this, but it's essentially, I think it's like Patagonia, for example, is one of the brands. And it's about like every single thing you do it for the best of the people, for the best of the environment, for the best of the country. Like it's greater than yourself. And it's not saying you're going to be perfect, but like our Cheer Sisters, I think, recently got B Corporation certification, and they've got a solar powered juicery,
which is amazing, right?
Yeah. A big part of myself as well is like, I don't want to shit on anyone to get here. I want to prove that you can be a good person and you can run a sustainable business and it can work. You don't have to push and push and push and push and drain everything for it to work, Yeah. I want to do it right.
Athik is a B Corp as well, and obviously they've had huge international acclaim for what they do.
Yes, I read her story a little while ago. It was great.
And also, because I mean, like one of the things I think that will be quite a big, like for a lot of the listeners to this podcast who think, wow, investors, how did you go about getting investors? And did you make sure your investors are also aligned with that kind of impact type or sustainable business? Was that important to you when you were choosing investors?
Yeah, so at the moment, the raising that we've done is the friends, family, and fools kind of space, which has been, it's been really encouraging to see that they back me, not just the idea. And that's what I've been told quite a lot, is that you're likable, we'll back you. And I'm like,
that's important.
Okay.
Yeah,
it is. I never realized, like, doing the Sprout program, you're in with a lot of investors a lot of the time, and they've said, you know, we back the person before we back the business. If we like the business but not the person, you're not going to get anywhere. So yeah, at the moment, the friends, family, fools. I've just finished my large scale investor pitch based on our pivot, I suppose. Now we've got a 3-phase part of the business, and we've got a pitching thing in about 3 weeks' time. That'll be to quite a big investors and international, but I would rather it stays Kiwi owned, at least, long term, hopefully. But yeah, so the big scale investor stuff is just ticking away at the moment. I'm just firming up the adjusted forecasting for our new model, turning my investor pitch into an updated business plan. So then I'll have the pitch, the plan, and the forecast all labeled out really nicely.
Amazing.
So I can present it to people rather than going, I have this, but I haven't quite got this yet.
Yeah, and that's huge. Like the energy that takes to make that is a big step, isn't it? Like you have to take yourself out to create that, don't you?
Yeah, I have to admit the business plan is probably getting about half an hour attention a day because everything else looks easier in comparison.
I know. I'm writing a book at the moment. Same thing.
Oh, I know. It's like, I'll clean the kitchen. I'll change the chef. That's fine. So long as I don't have to write this damn business plan.
Why do you think I'm double vaccinated, Chanelle? I want to do anything besides go.
Yeah, I know. It's just like, I really need to pull finger and set aside 2 hours and not get up off my chair.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's all in my head. So it's just a case of getting it out. We've got a website being rebranded at the moment. We've got a product photographer coming on next week. So everything's lining up to be nice and pretty and ready to go. And I just hope that someone out there understands what I'm trying to do. Ideally has experience in this kind of area, because I'm just faking it every day. And yeah, someone with like big picture thinking.
It can help kind of bring it forward.
Yeah, because a lot of investors in New Zealand are very tech based.
Yeah, and you
they
need
want to invest in tech. Food and beverages is very attractive to a lot of them. So they really need to understand it and be sold.
It's very different. Like I've worked with quite a lot of FMCGs, and they're very different to a tech. Like talk about the margins and the wholesaling and the bulk batch ordering and the pre-ordering and all those things and all the different elements. It's really complicated. So can I, if you were, as someone who is going to one day be someone that leads us forward, do you have a piece of advice that you would give someone who's thinking about launching into something where they go, this is a great opportunity? They've done their research or they're doing their research, but they're kind of finding it hard to take that next step. What advice would you give those people?
Yeah, I think what I found really helpful is, how everyone says, look at the big picture. I'm like, look at the big picture, shelve it. Because that big picture is scary and daunting.
That's
and it's
good
huge
advice.
And it looks unattainable. Instead, keep your eyes down and do one job at a time. Because when you accomplish that job, you feel a sense of accomplishment and that you can achieve the next one. And if you just do it like that, suddenly you'll look back and see all the stuff that you've done. So even though I've kind of known the overarching goals, to look at them, I'm like, that's ridiculous. I can never make it there. Like foodstuffs paperwork, it was like 50 pages long and you needed certifications and recall. Like it was horrific. But once I got that done, I could then look at that next thing. So yeah, just bite by bite. Don't get overwhelmed by the enormity of a task, because when you break it down, it's actually lots of little small ones that aren't too difficult or time consuming, and they add up really quickly.
That's exciting. I love that piece of advice. And if people want to, like, obviously, this is going to air in about 3 or 4 weeks. So it's not quite when things are live, but where would they come if they end from December? Where would they go if they want to buy your product online? And how, if they're listening in New Zealand, would they get it? And can they get it in Australia?
Not in Australia yet.
I
actually just sent some samples to someone influential yesterday. At the moment, we've got a stockist list on the website, which is www.borageandbee.com. Yeah. And then we will be selling through there soon, but we'll probably initially start selling by the case.
Yes.
Because that's the format that we're in at the moment.
It's affordable, right? For you.
It is. It means we can make it a lot more affordable for people to buy it in bulk. And the people who have been on board since day one, they're like, we just want a box. So that's perfect. So yeah, online is the best. And then we're starting to work on some other flavor combinations at the moment. So hopefully there might be things where there'll be kind of, we talked about Cherie Metcalf and what she's accomplished with Pepper and Me. I'd love to be able to send out new product development boxes to people, or chuck a bottle in something that they can try it and say what they think. Because the next two flavors that we're working on is Essential Otago Apricot and Wild Thyme.
Oh, so good.
Apricots with a mixture of thyme and clover honey from Central Otago. And then the one after that is exciting as well. Autumn is my favorite time of the year. So we're doing an autumn harvest pear and ginger. So it'll be like sweet pear and spicy ginger balance. So that kind of gives you an idea of what we're looking to do. Very New Zealand based flavors, and things that remind you of certain times of the year or different regions, like Kerry oranges from the Northland, something like that in the future as well.
I love it. It's kind of like Whitaker's with their with their different regionals. You feel like, because we often give those as a gift to podcast guests. You'll probably get some. But the reason we do that is, especially with our overseas guests, is we're giving them a taste of New Zealand. So it's like a little space. I was actually going to say, because I've started drinking the AF drinks because I've gone off alcohol for a little while. And and
they're delicious.
They are really delicious.
Yeah, I drink less at the moment than
I'm really into the ginger ale one and the cola one, like the rum and coke and the ginger ale. But I saw that she did that. She had like their new flavors, and she basically said, you can get these ones, you just pay shipping and you get a taster pack of these two.
Oh, cool.
And I was like, that's so clever. Like, I'd already just bought them, and so I didn't really care. But I was like, this is so cool, because it just gives people that taste, and they go, oh, that's cool, I like that, I'll buy it.
And it's also that psychological buy-in that you're a part of something, and your feedback on that counts towards what we're doing with the product. Yeah. And that's what I appreciate from a brand. And not only that, but it benefits the business, because we get real life, unbiased consumers giving us feedback.
Yeah, it's really good. No, it's awesome. Hey, Chanelle, thank you so much. I just looked at the time and went, how did that happen so fast? It's been a real pleasure having you on the show. I really loved hearing, because I feel like you will help listeners also think of that next level. You've got that lovely big world domination picture in mind, but you're still very much the person that's having to do work on the business, and in the business, and that's hard. Like, that's a hard balance. And I think it shows that it's possible to be doing world domination planning, even if you're doing a lot of the actual work.
And living in one of the smallest towns in New Zealand, that feels
yes, and living in one of the smallest towns in New Zealand, where you probably don't even have a countdown.
No, we have nothing.
We have
like a little dairy. No, nothing.
Oh yeah, you got the dairy, and you got that really cool gift shop.
Yeah, Mrs. Willie, we've only got around 400 permanent residents. There's 33 kids at the school. It's adorable.
Yeah, so you probably is your product actually available at the little shop?
It will be.
It will be. Yeah.
So hey,
I want to live here. But thank you so much for being a part of today. I've really appreciated it, and it's been lovely to have you.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
I really enjoyed talking to Chanelle about how she's planning for the future. That forward future thinking is so important when you're creating a marketing strategy, because it helps you make better business decisions that also lead to better strategic marketing decisions. I know for us at Identify in our own business, when I have an idea, I have lots of ideas. When I have an idea, I have to justify it to Rod, my business partner, and my husband, to make sure that it's something that we are going to have that's building towards a future. I have to explain why this is working towards the goals that we have before us, because otherwise it's so easy to get distracted down a route that does not suit where we're going. If this is something that you might need to do as well, if you're looking at your life and you're going, I need to work out how this business is going to serve me, not just now, but for the next 5, 10, 15 or 20 years, then here's some questions that you can ask yourself to do that. Now, before we do that, I'd love you if you came and be part of our Map It Marketing group on Facebook. It's a really lovely place to come and ask questions, get support and ideas, and you get some special offers through the year for the events and other things that we run. So please do come along in there. And we've got a brand new website too called mymapitmarketing.com, which I'll pop in the show notes so you can have a look at it. It's not much on it yet, but there will be. Right, so here's some questions. What do you want to do, and what do you want to be doing in the next 5, 10 or 15 years? And this is beyond your business. Think about your lifestyle, the way you want it to look, how you want to be spending your time, what is in you that might not be in your business now that you'd love to do. Get dreamy about this. Get really inspirational about the things that you would love to achieve. And then ask, is this different to what I'm doing now? And is the stuff I'm doing now potentially leading towards that information or that way that I wanted to live? To reach the goals you need that you have in front of you, would you need to sell your current business, or could it morph into that business? And is your business a sellable asset today? Is it paying you? Is it giving you profit on top of the money that you work in it? And is it something that someone would see it and go, yes, I would be able to pick up and use that? Is it solely dependent on you as a brand, or is there a way to transfer some of that power of you as a brand onto somebody else? Has there assets like email lists and digital marketing and all the other bits and pieces and return and repeat business that someone would want to buy? And if you are going to close it off or at some point move on to something else, would you sell it? Would you wind it down, or would you shut it down completely? And asking those questions can help you think more forward thinking to help you in your business now make better decisions. I hope that was helpful. Now, I'm really looking forward to next week. I am interviewing a beautiful woman called Tony who works only with regional businesses in a place called Broome in Australia. I'm very jealous. When I did my interview with her, it was 9 o'clock in the morning for her, and she was about to go out for a swim in her pool because it was already 40 degrees. And she's a lovely person who's passionate about working with regional businesses in the marketing space to help them grow their businesses. So we're going to talk about what it's like to work as a regional business, trying to market your business both locally and out to the world, and the complications and differences of that compared to working in a large city. I'm really looking forward to doing this with Tony next week, and I'm looking forward to you tuning in. I hope you enjoy it. Thanks for tuning in today to Map It Marketing with me, Rachel Klaver. Make sure you hit subscribe in your podcast app so you don't miss an episode. And if you want notes or information about today's podcast, go to rachelklaver.com/podcast for more information.